Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. I apologize I'm late. It's about midnight 24, midnight 30 or so. I had to teach class tonight, so I got home late and trying to get all the pieces together. It took me a bit more to get everything out because I actually used some of my components that I use for the setup in the class to do demonstrations and such. So I had some great feedback from the last episode from last week about the sock, and I wanted to cover just a few things about the sock, some of the questions that came up, and some of the things that I wanted to talk about and describe. So one of the things is when we are looking at the sock, I had some questions about the lights. I had some questions about the TVs up on the wall, and several people sent me videos or pictures of socks, some great socks, that had a lot of equipment in there, and I had videos on the wall, and people were asking me about dashboards and all kinds of things. And I wanted to talk about kind of what I did in preparation for the sock. I visited several socks. I talked to people who were SOC analysts. I talked to managers. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly what we needed in our security operations center. And, uh, and what I found is, and this is just what I found talking to the people that I know, um, the for a security operations center, which is very different than a network operations center or even to an extent an IT operations center. Um, Security operations centers, they have different content, different dashboards, different information that's up on the screen. And when I talked to a SOC analyst who had been doing the job for a long time, and I asked him, I was like, what kinds of things are up on the screen that's useful to you? What do you see? Because I honestly, I came into this with no background in SOCs, a lot of background in security, but less background in SOCs. I had done training, I got my GSOM. I really tried to spend a lot of time learning to make sure that we did it right. But when I talked to the SOC analysts, a lot of them rarely look at the screens above, up on the walls, the big screens. And their comments were generally that, those are for show, kind of, or, for management. They've got some of them were for, um, they had management that had offices in the back with glass windows so they could see stuff. And I absolutely understand that. But as a general rule, the SOC analysts didn't really use the big screens up on the wall. Now, Knox do. Network operations centers or the IT operations center that will use that for monitoring. They'll be running something like a PRTG or SolarWinds or something, so they're monitoring bandwidth and up downs and stuff like that. Green, red. What that's a little different. And we do have that, and we do use that on ours. Now, the pictures you have and all the pictures that I provided in the presentation last week, those were all fake. I didn't want to put our real information up there for obvious reasons, so I just went out and got some fun stuff and kind of stuck it up there to make it visually appealing. But the way this room is, since it is just an office, let's see if I got a quick picture. It's just this corner office here. It didn't I didn't have a lot of space to work with, and since I was trying to make a dual purpose room, I wanted to make sure that I got the most out of it that I could. So when we put the TVs up, we used it for really incident response is kind of the function that these provide. The SOC analysts who sit, at the desk, it's really hard for them to look up and constantly look at those big screens. It's just the room is not set up. They're not back and away, so it's easy to see. They have to look up, crane their neck. So that's not something that is really useful to them, but is extremely useful to me or some of the IT staff or leadership when they come into the room, because we can stand back at the conference table and very easily see everything on the wall. So it's really for that management level or that decision making level at the conference table or other parts of the room. Now, because of that, the dashboards and the functionality of those TVs really are for the ability that one of the SOC analysts can take information that's on their screen and very quickly get it to any of the screens or all of the screens, so that we can all see it. We're not crowding around their their monitor. Now, for each one of the screens or each one of the SOC stations, they've got a 43-inch screen plus the laptop screen, so they've got plenty of real estate on that screen to be able to put all their dashboards and all the things that we look at. And then when they're ready to display something, or if we're in there doing a security debrief and I'm wanting them to just go ahead and pull up dashboards and stuff for us to all look at and evaluate and analyze, then they can do that. So really those screens are for not necessarily the SOC analyst, but those are for leadership, for teaching and training, for incident response, for people that have to stand back, in the room and be able to see the information. So I just wanted to clarify some of that and to really help people kind of understand what the use cases were. Now, of course, the lights in the back, it truly is for very quick recognition of which screen I want them to put things on. In this one, we've got red, green, and blue. Sometimes we change the colors. We have a process that if there's an incident, we know which one is which. But during an incident, one of the things that I try to get across people is you need to make it to where you're not wasting mental power, and wasting is a strong word. You're not using, mental power trying to think of things that we can make easier to think about. So instead of being confused of which screen I want you to send it to, it's colored. Send it to the red screen. Everyone knows which one is the red screen in this picture. Everyone's like, send it to red. Then when someone's saying, okay, which one, look at the red screen, they look up, their brain immediately goes over to the red. Now, if you didn't have that color in the background, let's see if we're looking at this and I say, send it to the right screen, is it the one in the middle is to the right to the one to the left, or is it the one to the far right? Is it the correct screen versus, right or left? It can be a little bit more confusing, and I wanted to take that out of it. And come on, LED lights look nice if they're done right, if they're clean. So yes, we put LED lights back there, but there is a reason. So anyway, I wanted to clarify that and kind of help people get to understand and answer just a few of the questions that I got from LinkedIn messages, from emails and things. So just to kind of clear up some of those things from last week. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to leave comments, contact me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to engage and help. All right, so for the presentation night, I do a lot of speaking engagements. Some years upwards of 100. Some years more than that. Some years a little bit less than that. I had 1 month a couple years ago that I did 30 presentations or 30 speaking engagements in 1 month. So I've really tried to make some really good presentations that people like, make it really easy for me to create presentations, and to be able to do my demonstrations and stuff in the presentation. So there's one presentation that I really like doing, and people seem to like it, that I started at a B-Sides conference several years ago, actually teaching this as a class. We turned it was an 8-hour class. I still do it from time to time when people ask me about it, but it's cyber attacks against the organization. And what was interesting about when I first did it is we had 2 classrooms set up on my side, or on the side of the building that I was on at the B-Sides conference. This was the day before B-Sides. And in the room next to me, I had someone who I worked with a lot, and he was doing a presentation on penetration testing. And so he was doing a class on pen testing. And I looked at his syllabus, and his syllabus was more or less the same as my syllabus. But he was doing it from the tactics and the tools to do pen testing. I was doing it from specifically the attack vector, and then in our class, I would demonstrate the attack, and then we would talk about the management decisions around it. It was something about, it was in my classroom, I had CEOs and I had CIOs and CISOs and management people there who were doing the decision making for the organization. And he was doing much more hands on, doing the pen testing and teaching people, but doing the exact same class that I was teaching. But I a I needed to have a laptop and a network setup to be able to do this and to do this pretty. Well, the setup, use it tonight for the. I was teaching a class at a local community college, and it was cybersecurity for small business owners, and we had a lot of fun. And the small business owners and people, they weren't just small business owners who asked about cybersecurity, and we covered it was 2 days, and we covered a variety of topics, very basic level um, security. But the second day was, I wanted to demonstrate a few attacks, and the way it worked was, yes, the 1 and 2 of CIS 18, inventory management and software inventory management, doing infrastructure, and a few other pieces, but that was just kind of was okay now to learn or what about our own network and about our own environment. Now let's take a look at a few attacks, and we talked about how the attacks work, why defend against them, and what our mental processes are in the organization. So, everybody who is really serious about security, yeah, I was talking about it is they need to be magicians, and by that is when you're around a magician, working with them or you're engaging, they've always got up their sleeve. They always have cards or a coin or a ring or something else that they could do magic with. And I've always found it fascinating that they're always ready to do a trick, or a magic trick, and that they can. They pull something out and they do a magic trick, and you're in awe, and people love it. Well, I've always those is kind of the same, and they needed to have the ability to do demonstrations on the fly. And I've had to do this in board meetings where I had a question and I jumped into a demonstration and I had everything set up. It wasn't set up on my laptop, it was set up, across campus in my environment. And the board loved it. Being a big supporter of people who are, if you're in a CISO or a leadership position, you need to have some of the basic information, basic demonstrations ready to go at a moment's notice. Because if you're in a conversation and you're talking about a particular security control or a particular, that's something you really want to be able to demonstrate to someone. Because sometimes you can tell them all day long, but it's better to show it to them so they can really see something is, or difficult something is. Sometimes you have to show them that, hey, this is hard stuff and this is complicated and it's not snap your fingers and then all of a sudden it's done. So I'm going to this is my desktop. Please no jokes about the desktop. It was really interesting when I got to the classroom yesterday. I went through 4 or 5, 6 different backgrounds to figure out which background would look the best on the main screen. And this purple looked the best. So I don't know how it looks coming across on YouTube. It looks okay here. Of course, I prefer, kind of a dark gray or a black background or something like that. But this is what looked best. This is what allowed people to see the computer the best. So I'm fine with that. Sometimes you have to, go with the flow, and if that's what works, that's what works. So this is a Dell Latitude It's a 5450, a Latitude E5450. It's a Core i5, 16 gigs of RAM. I think I've got a solid state in it, and this has been my laptop for a long time. I really like the Latitude series. I like the XPS series too. You know, I've got an affinity to Latitude because that's what we've always used at work, and so at home that's kind of what I veered towards. But one of my newest laptop over here is a XPS 13, and I really like the size. It's a nice laptop. It's powerful. It's a good laptop. I really like, and I like traveling with it because it's really small. But this one, this 5450, is just a workhorse, and I've used it for a long time for this stuff. And I want to show you how I set it up and what I do. So the first thing is I use VMware Workstation. And on the VMware Workstation, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up so you guys can see. This is 15. I think I need to update this. But this is 15. It's just personal version. I do this for presentations. I don't get paid for any of this stuff. So this is just kind of fun stuff for me to demonstrate for people for speaking engagements, and I really like using this as training. So here are the 4 or so virtual machines I have. I've got Metasploitable. You can absolutely look that up online to see what it is, but it's just a yeah, I know. Sorry, I was talking to the computer. But it's Metasploitable. This is a specifically vulnerable machine. It's just a basic machine that you can get. You can download it, and it's got a variety of tactics or a variety of vulnerabilities that you can practice on. But I like using this because it's simple, it's easy, and it allows for people to go get it themselves and recreate what I'm doing in a very easy way. I've got Kali Linux here. Slightly older version, only because this is what I had on this particular machine. And it works fine. I really need to get the latest version and get it updated on there. And then I have a Windows XP Professional, and we'll explain why I chose Windows XP Professional. But it's just a virtual machine. I also have an Ubuntu on there, 64-bit Ubuntu. I usually live in Cali. That's what I do most of my stuff in. Most of my tools are in it. It's just what I'm used to. But when I'm not using Kali for doing my security work, then I'm usually using an Ubuntu or something equivalent to that on my primary desktop. So I've got a version up there so I can use to play with it. So I've got, but these 3 machines, Metasploitable, Kali, and Windows XP, are the ones that I generally use all the time. So I've got them up right now because I had them up in class. And let me show you, no, not that one. Where's my Kali? There's my, oh, I don't have I think the Linux one or the Windows one died. Or I clicked out of it during the class. So let me bring it back up real quick. So this laptop can absolutely run these 3 machines, no problem. There's no issue with running these 3. And there's one more piece to this. Okay. So I've got these 3 virtual machines in place that I can do a variety of things with. But this is not the only thing that I have that I use for my demonstrations. I've got I take this laptop with me. I also have my show and tell kit, and I've got my travel kit for presentations and things. And if people are interested in that, I can absolutely show you more of that. But the other thing that I have is I've got a little Ubiquiti Edge Router X that I've got, and I've got it configured. And right now, it's actually set up to run this laptop and all these virtual machines running off the IPs from the router. I'm not NATing from the local laptop. I'm NATing from the router. So this gives me a couple things. Number one, it allows me to connect external machines, like if I've got a Raspberry Pi as a sensor, or if I'm using it as an attack box, or if I've got other servers or stuff I can plug into it. I can have a self-contained network, and that's really important to have that kind of self-contained network. I also use the functionality within the Ubiquiti website to demonstrate some of the things when we're talking about home routers or how to set up small business networks and things. So there's a lot of functionality that I use in this just as demonstration. and it works really well. So I've got one of these that right now it's got a single line coming out of the box. It's plugged in, of course, to the electrical, and is plugged into the back of the laptop and Ethernet. And of course, I've got the computer itself on my wireless here at the house. But there you go. Those are the two pieces that I take with me. I have my laptop. I've got some power supplies. I run my Ubiquiti Edge router X with me, and I plug that in. So wherever I go, as long as I can sit on a table and get power, plug in HDMI, I can do all of my demonstrations all self-contained. I don't have to do anything on any network anywhere. I don't have to connect anywhere, and that's really proved useful to me. Okay, so now that we've got, we've talked about the edge router. All of these are passed through to get their IPs from the edge router. So they all have different IPs. 42, 43, 44 is what they are. And I do a couple different things. So I've got a. So let me jump into this for just a second, and I want to log in. Okay, I'll bring you guys back real quick. All right, so what I do here is I've got a Kali box here, and I have it running. Now, using the GUI interface, I don't generally. I mean, I do when I need to have the tools that are GUI only. But generally, I just I get it up, I minimize it, and then I SSH into the box so that I can do the stuff that I need to do. So that's how I do it, and it works pretty well for me. And since I've got these two boxes on the network here, I'm going to, here, let me do a basic nmap. SP. Now, I know what these IPs are, but I'm going to show you a little bit about what I do in my class. So, okay, if I'm an attacker and I otherwise have access to a network, I'm going to jump on the network and, I'm going to... I'm going to do a quick scan just to see what's out there. So I know I've got a couple of machines on this 200 subnet that's running off of this Ubiquiti router. So I'm just going to do a ping sweep. And then once I do the ping sweep, I'm going to see what's alive, and looking at this basic, pull back on what here. So here's what I've got. I've got a Ubiquiti Networks. I've got a Dell. I've got a VMware and a VMware. Okay, that's great. So now I've got some machines to play with. So I know that this one is this is 44. So let's go play with 44 real quick. So let's do a quick scan on 44. Come over here. Looks good. Oh. All right. So, of course, this is a small network, so I should be able to scan pretty quickly. And during presentations, this is perfect. So I get to see a few machines. I get to I can demonstrate Nmap, and I can do a lot of cool stuff with Nmap. I can do basic ping sweeps. I can do my stealth scans. I can do an all scan. I can do a variety of things just to demonstrate Nmap and the power of Nmap. In this particular case, of course, I'm scanning Metasploitable, and that's a very vulnerable machine intentionally. And so, when I'm demonstrating, I show people, hey, this is kind of what we do from a network scan perspective. You reach out there, you touch the machines, and I explain what that means, and then we get information back. And some of that information is, maybe what is on the machine in terms of applications and what they're listening on. And then, of course, if you do a much more detailed scan, and you can get, exactly what is going to be vulnerability information, or not vulnerability, but you get to see what their applications are, and kind of go through the process of finding the versions of the applications, going to Google, finding the exploits, using MSF console or Metasploit to get in there and take advantage of that exploit and get it on the machine. So that's pretty straightforward. And I think, this is just my opinion, but I think every CISO or every IT security professional should be able to do some of the basic demonstrations like this to explain to people, doing in-map scans, so scanning the network, seeing what kind of devices are out there, looking for vulnerabilities. You gotta kind of be able to explain what attackers are doing on your network. If you have a wide open network jack or a wide open wireless, in the attackers are doing this, so you need to be able to demonstrate it. So that's my Kali box, and that's my Metasploitable. Now for my Windows box here, I believe that was 45, so I'm going to do a quick scan on 45. And the reason why I chose Windows XP is, even tonight in class, we had somebody who raised their hand and says, "Hey, I got Windows XP from a garage sale. Can I put it on the network?" And of course, most IT people and IT security are going to cringe at that, and it's like, well, it's not a good idea. And but since we did talk at that, we oh, changed my password. Hold on. This is what happens when you do stuff live. All right. It really doesn't like. So this is just an old version of Windows XP that I had a license for, and I'm going to go and let's do this one. I'll tell you, using Windows 10 and Windows 11 for so long, you really got to think about where everything is. And that's kind of funny, because it used to be the other way around. I knew where everything was Windows XP, but now you go, okay, go here, go here. So I was using this in class today, so I kind of messed it up for my original, and I haven't reset the VM. But so this is a perfect example. When we talk about firewalls, and firewalls is one of those things that I spend a good amount of time in my classes on, about what is a firewall, why is it important. And what I have found, honestly, there's a lot of IT people that don't get into they understand what a firewall is conceptually, but they don't know kind of the inner workings of how a firewall works and functions. So it's I spend a lot of time on this in my classes and my training, so people really get what is a firewall, how does it work, thinking about ports, think about the information you can get from the ports, especially from a cybersecurity perspective or an IT security perspective. So this is one of the examples that I use, or one of the demonstrations I use. I attack Metasploitable because it's fun, and we can get into with Metasploit, but I like doing this one more specifically to show the benefits of a firewall. So I'll do the Metasploitable attack first and say, okay, let's scan it and let's get some information from it. Let's go on Google, we find the exploit, and let's look at how we get it. We run Metasploit, we use the exploit in Metasploit, and then we pop the box, get in there, take a look at the data, find the secret file or passwords file or whatever. And people love that. And they really get excited. It's like, oh, this is great. And some of them get scared, like, oh my God, this is, how easy this is. Well, then I bring up Windows XP and I say, okay, well, let's look at this. So we're going to do the exact same thing. So we do a ping sweep. We see this there. We do a basic stealth scan or an SS scan. And we see the basics, okay, 135, 139, 45, 127, 33, 89. And then I asked the group, it's like, okay, now what did we do on the last one? We did a scan for all, an nmap scan for, hyphen A, and we got more information. And then we went on the internet and we find a vulnerability, Windows XP vulnerability, because we know it's Windows XP based on the nmap scan. And we tried to attack that. But this is not an attack class about teaching attacks. This is about decision making. So what I love about this is you can see that, there's 4, 5, 6, 7 ports here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ports that are open right now. The one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the Windows XP firewall. That's it. I make one change. I go and do another scan, and I'm doing this, and I'm talking to the class, and I say, okay, that's the only change we did, is we turned on the XP firewall. And this scan should come back in just a few seconds and tell us that right there. One small change on the firewall, one checkbox, literally, and we have now reduced our attack surface on that machine from the ports by 1 out of 5, so 20%, down to 20% of what it was originally. Because now it's blocking all those ports. Now, I intentionally went in and I put an exception rule in for 3389 so it would show through the firewall. Because I use this as another attack. I use ncrack to attack RDP with a brute force password attack. So I use the Windows XP box, kind of a different mode, so I show them. In fact, I had one night where people were talking about they were running 3389 through their firewall so they can connect from remote from home. And I used this to show him why that was a bad idea, because he has that available to the internet. And, we talk about VPNs, we talk about different ways of doing it, and he, I think I spooked him. I think he got pretty worried that his machine is now getting attacked by, attackers or bots or whatever, trying to take that machine down. So this is a good demonstration. Now, that's the kind of stuff that I do. There's still a lot of stuff in Metasploit, and I'll demonstrate that for the class or for the presentation, and it has everything I need. So this one laptop with this one edge router, I can take it with me, and I can do a lot of demonstrations with it. And it fits in a small space. It fits into my Pelican case over there that I use, my case that I drive, pull around to the different conferences and things or presentations that I'm doing. So there's really not anything more than that. Nothing really special. I'm running 3 virtual machines, a Kali, a XP, and Metasploitable. So I got 2 Linux and a Windows. And I've got Ubuntu. Of course, it's not on right now, but you could put a variety of other machines. You can download a whole host of vulnerable machines and put them on there and demonstrate it. But I really wanted to show kind of how I set this up and how it works for me to demonstrate to leadership of an organization or a business or even home why good cyber security practices are useful. And I generally always start with the attacks. Here is the attack. Now, what management decisions do we need to make to defend against this attack? Brute force is really fun. I actually, come in here. Let's get over here. Okay. So I've cleaned some of these out since the last time. I didn't do any password mutations or anything for this class. I must have cleaned it out for last time. Anyway, so I do password attacks. where I've got my password list there that I use, and honestly, the whole intent is just to demonstrate some of this. So I've removed a lot of passwords, and I've put maybe, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 passwords in there, but just enough that a brute force password will take it some time to go through. And of course, because this is a demonstration and I want it to be successful, I have put the password, or I have set the password to the VM to be something that was in the file towards the bottom, or about 3/4 of the way down, so that it is successful. And that's a way to, again, we're just trying to demonstrate. We're trying to show, I specifically am trying to show leadership and decision makers how these things work and what we can do to make better decisions. And and someone asked me once, he goes, "Well, that's kind of cheating," and you're absolutely right. It is. I hacked live that day for the board, and I got very, very lucky, and it turned into a great conversation with the board about shadow systems, about vulnerabilities, and network segmentation. But I don't advise doing that. If you're doing a demonstration, if you're doing a presentation, make sure it works. There is nothing worse in terms of a feeling of getting up there and trying something and it doesn't work. And even if you practice it and you do it over and over again, sometimes it just doesn't work. I remember I was doing a command once, and I had done that command a dozen times, and I could not make it work in any way, shape, or form. I didn't know why. I retyped it, and of course the class was laughing at me because I was getting not really frustrated, but I was trying to make it work, and they were just kind of laughing, and we were having a good time. I realized I was leaving a switch out. I didn't put a -P in there. So it was just a dumb thing, but you're in the heat of the moment and you're trying to get things to work, and well, it didn't. So I'm a big supporter of make sure you do some practice. Make sure you have an environment that works for you. These are what worked for me for my demonstrations: my Windows XP box, my Metasploitable, my Kali, and I will change out the XP box periodically if I'm doing something else or a different attack. I'll put software on a box so I can attack a specific software. Now, please understand, I am not a pen tester. I'm a CISO. I got some certifications in it. I'm working on my OSCP. I have my GPIN. I have a CEH. I know people make fun of the CEH, but still a certification that I'm proud of. I got it. But I use this stuff as demonstrations. These are the magic tricks that you have in your pocket and up your sleeve, so you can demonstrate this to other people. Because when we're talking about multi-factor authentication, or putting a block out of so many failed attempts on a password, I show it to them. It's not just that they know that I'm asking for it or asking them to make a change. It's that I'm showing them what the risk is. Then I also go get the actual logs. I show them the logs and say, "Hey, this is what we're seeing. Let me show you how it works here." And now I'm doing stuff, and they see how easy it is, and they're sometimes a bit, more apt to help you. I like doing this for the public because I show them that this is not difficult things. Everybody that was in the class today for small business owners, none of them were technical. There was one person that was technical, but everybody else was just small business owners. But by the end of the class, they knew the terminology. They understood the things. They were enjoying the class. They were enjoying what they needed to think about in their small business to protect their computers, how to do patches, updates, how a network design, the design of the network will help protect their IoT devices, their laptops, and their guest networks. So it's really important to be able to take this information that we have in cybersecurity and not dumb it down. I think that that's a misnomer. We're not dumbing it down. We are presenting it in a way that anyone who is listening, even if they're non-technical, will understand it. Because I think a lot of cybersecurity, it's just management decisions. There is some technical. There really is. but a lot of what we do is management decisions. And if you're a competent manager, if you are comfortable making decisions, then you can pick up cybersecurity stuff pretty quick, at least the decision making we're doing with these. So, anyway, that is my kind of my basic information about this. I'm happy to answer any questions. This is my setup that I use. It's worked well for me. This laptop has worked well. I can reload this laptop pretty easily and still get back up to where I needed to be. These are not custom VMs. I download the VMs. I download the Kali. I install a basic install of Windows XP, and I download Metasploitable. So I think any CISO out there, any security professional can do what I do here with a minimal amount of effort. You take an old laptop, you download the files, you download the VMware workstation. Again, this is all personal. I don't use it for profit. I demonstrate it. I practice it. I get people to where they are comfortable understanding kind of what I'm doing on the screen. Anyway, I hope everyone has a wonderful evening and a wonderful the rest of the week. I hope this was useful. Please reach out if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a great night. Talk to you later. Bye.